Okay, in this video, we're actually going to do a few things. I'm going to show you based off of the version of Excel that you may have. I want to show you an add-in and how to put this add-in into your Excels in order to do analysis, that data analysis, which is actually going to help in the near future. It's actually a really quick way that we can run and find a lot of data out with a couple clicks of the button. And then what we're going to do is talk about and show you how to do or calculate the measurements of central tendency, which in this case are going to be mean, median, and mode. Those are going to be the three, and I'm going to show you multiple ways of calculating those. And we're going to use the same data that we had before. So what I'm going to do is I first want to show you how to add in what's known as our descriptive statistics, our data analysis. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to go to your file in your Excel, whatever version it is. This is normally an add-in. And what you're going to do is you're going to go way down to the options at the very bottom left. And you should have this Excel options pop up. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to go down to the add-ins. And what you'll see is, and here's a way of knowing if we have it or we do not. So it says inactive applications and add-ins. And what we want is we want these analysis tool packs. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click on it. And I'm going to come down here where it says Excel add-ins go. So I'm going to click on that. And what you can actually do is you can actually click on all of these if you want. It's really not going to hurt, but really what we're going to use is this analysis tool pack. You can even just click on that one. But I'm going to click on all of them. I'm going to click OK. Now this actually popped up, and I'll show you where it popped up here once it's added in. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to the Data tab, and now this Analyze tab part has popped up, and this is the data analysis that we're going to use over here. Okay, so that's actually we're going to use that here in a little bit. But what I want to do is I want to show you and talk about the mean, median, and mode. So you guys should already read through the material and know that the mean is also known as the average. So if we want to know the average, and average is only going to work with quantitative data. You're not going to have an average location. You're not going to have an average vehicle type. But dealing with numbers, we can have an average age, we can have an average profit, and we can have an average of how many cars were previously bought and sold. With mode actually can work across all boards, meaning it can work for quantitative or qualitative. And mode is simply the number of occurrences that happens the most, right? The highest frequency, right? And then finally with median, median is the center point of our data. And once again, that is only going to work with our that's going to work with our numbers. So that would work with our quantitative data. Now there is some instances where it can work for part of our qualitative data, our numerical or ordering, but we're just going to focus on the quantitative side of that. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you how to calculate those. So real quick, I'm going to do mean and median and mode, but I'm going to do them each two different ways. So first thing is the mean. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you how to use the formula tab. So I'm going to go and I'm going to click on the formulas, and everything that we're going to use today is going to be in the more functions under statistical, and you're not going to find the mean in here. You're actually going to want to use average. So I'm just going to go to the average and click on it, and what you'll see is this this box will pop open. And all they want to know here is what numbers do you want the average of. So we'll actually look at the average profits. And I don't want to highlight the profit. I just want to start with the first value. And I'm going to highlight, left click, and drag down. And once I get to the bottom, I'm going to let go. And now I have, and you can actually see that the average actually pops up on here. And I'm going to click OK. Right. Now, you noticed this actually rounds to the nearest dollar. If I wanted to, I can actually, if I go to the Home tab, and I can bump out to the nearest penny since we are dealing with dollars and cents. So just something that you can use there. So that's how we calculate the mean. So the mean profit that we have of our data. So once again, what this is doing mathematically is it's adding up all of our profits and then dividing by how many, which was 180. cars were sold, and we have our average profit. Now, another way that we can do this is instead of going to the formulas, all formulas and functions actually start out with the equal sign. So if we're in the cell, if I'm in the cell below, I'm going to hit the equals. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start typing in average, AV, and as you can see, now the function pops up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on that, and now it says number, and now I can come over here, left click on my data, and I can pull down and I can click OK. And what you will see, once again, dealing with dollars and cents, I'm going to bump those out. So here we have the average of our data. So I can just, or I guess we can also use the statistical word of mean. For mode, right, I'm going to do the same two things that I did previously. Now with mode, I'm not going to do profit because once again, the profit, if we looked at it, there was only one occurrence. So what we can do with the mode is we can even group this data and then find out which one occurs the most. But with age, we're going to see some more repetitiveness. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use age. So I'm going to go to my formulas, more functions, statistical, and I'm going to go to mode. So it's all alphabetical order. Now here you can have multiple modes. Modes, mean, there's only going to be one. Median, there's only going to be one. But with the mode, there can be more than one. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the singular mode. And once again, I'm going to highlight my data, in this case, the ages, and I'm going to click OK. And we have a mode of 40. So that means that 40-year-olds was the most repetitive piece of data in our age. Alongside that, I can also do the same thing I did previously, where I would hit the equal sign, start typing in mode. This actually, it pays to know what, once you get used to this, what each one is called, so you can start typing it in and then double click on it. And when I say double click, I mean left click your mouse. And then now I can highlight my data just like I did previously and hit enter, and now I have my mode. So mean, mode, and then the last one is going to be the median. All right, so with median, we know median is the center point of our data, and I know mathematically you guys have probably been, organizing your data from smallest to largest and finding the one in the center. If it's odd, if we have an odd number of data, if we have even number of data, we find the two middle ones and we average those two values. With Excel, once again, it's so much quicker. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click on the more functions, statistical, and I'm going to go to my median. And here we have our median. Now, same thing. Now it's saying G2 to G5, which I don't want. And what I can do is I can do any, I'll stick with age, just since that's kind of what I was working with. I guess I should have done that in the first one too, with the average age. And actually, I'll go back and do that, so you can kind of see the difference between. So I have my age, and I'm going to click OK, and our center point is 46. Now let me go back to here, and actually I'm going to go up here and delete these, backspace, and I'm going to highlight age, just so we're looking at the same data for comparison. And then I'm going to do the same thing for here. And this is not in dollars anymore. This should actually be in just general. And I'm going to take away those decimals. And then finally, I'm going to do the same thing here, just so we're looking, comparing apples to apples. Get rid of that, highlight my age. And I'm going to have to do the same thing, change it from dollars, because we're not dealing with dollars in this sense. We're dealing with years. And I want to have rounded. So here we have our average, or our mean, our mode, and our median. And what do you notice? Well, actually, in the future, we're going to take a look at the relationship between mean, median, mode, and what our data looks like in the sense of a curve, whether it's normal, positively skewed, negatively skewed, or bimodal is really what we're going to look at, and with the relationship of these, but we're not there yet. So what you can see is, you'd expect, this is measuring central tendencies, so we have a mean and a median that are the same, which is great. That means, it's a good representation, because a lot of times with a mean, what happens is with our data, and I'm sure you guys read about this, our mean can be really affected by what we would consider outliers, or pieces of data that are just don't compare to the rest, right? Because those can really impact, the averages. And just think of an example of, let's say that there's a class that took an exam, and the average on the exam was a 50%, right? And let's say that everybody in the class did well, but you have one student who got a 20% on the exam. Well, that 20% is going to throw off all of the data, in the sense that the mean really isn't a good representation of that class in terms of grades. But the median actually takes out, those outliers, or those pieces of data that maybe just don't make sense, because it's really looking at the middle or the center of our data. So reporting wise, as you guys have probably read, is that sometimes you want to use the mean, sometimes the median is what you want to use. Mode is just simply looking at the most occurrences, what number occurs the most. So these are the formulas and functions. Now, if I want to do this very quickly, since we've since we added in, I guess I should say, that data analysis, what I'm actually going to do is show you how to use it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my data, and I'm going to click on the data analysis tab. And what you're going to see here is these are different reports that we can run, and we're going to stick with the descriptive statistics, and I'm going to click OK. Now, the input range. So in this case, I'm going to mention a couple things here. We're going to use the age, but if you select it, I highly recommend that you incorporate the age, the actual title age, in this when you highlight it. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to drag down. Now, if you do highlight the age or the title, what you want to do is you want to go down here where it says labels in the first row. I did add the label in the first row, so I definitely want to click on that, because if you don't and you do highlight the label or the age, it's going to take it as a piece of data, which it's not. It's just the title of our data. So I'm going to click on that label in the first row. Then I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to do output range, and that's just simply going to be where do I want it to lie. So what I don't want you to do is click that output range and then click somewhere. If you notice, your cursor is still in this input range. So what you need to do is you need to click out of that and into this output range. And I'm just going to go right here in I. I do want a summary of statistics. This other stuff we'll actually talk about in the future, but for mean, median, and mode, we do not need that. So I'm just going to click that, and you're going to see there's going to be multiple pieces of data that pop up. So here is what that report shows. So once again, we have a mean of 45.8833. 45.8. If I were to change this and add those decimals, right, that we had previously, you would see that it would be the same. Some of the other things, we have our median and our mode. So spot on with those answers. Now, I do want to mention, I'm going to mention this in the future, is that when we run this report, what it does is it takes our data as if it's a sample, not a population. Okay? And how we know that is actually, you may not know this anywhere other than where you see this variance and it says sample variance. So this is a sample variance and a sample standard deviation. This is also a sample median, sample mode, and sample mean. But the math behind whether it's a population or a sample size, the math is the same. So if this is a population or a sample, these are going to be the answers for mean, median, and mode. But for standard deviation and variance, it does matter. So this is actually the sample standard deviation, and we're going to take a look at how we calculate the population standard deviation if our information is population. Some of the other things, kurtosis, skewedness, which we're actually going to talk about, that's our curve. Range is 52, so that's the difference between our max value and our min value. In this case, the oldest is 73, the youngest is 21. The sum of all ages and the count. So this is actually how we calculate our average, right? The sum divided by the count is how we get our average or our mean. So this is a quick way of getting a report to answer the same thing, but you do have multiple ways of doing it. Okay. If you guys have any questions on central tendencies, mean, median, and mode, please reach out to me through email. Thanks.